Hello, citizens of YouTube land.
Hello.
And welcome, specifically in the province of gaming. Today we are taking a look at a very old video game, actually. This celebrates the 20th anniversary.
No.
30th?
The 30th
Oops,
anniversary.
my mistake. 30th anniversary of said video game, because it's on our retro console that we have. The most retro console that we actually have. Get off there, ant. Sorry.
That was random.
There was an ant on our Sega Genesis, and that actually ruins the console. Yeah,
well,
it's on our
crawled
most
down in there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's our most. This is our most retro console we have. So this game being Spiderman and Venom Maximum Carnage,
which was developed for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, respectively, at the time.
Yeah, let me check who were the developers. Hold up, it actually says here.
I believe that this is a claim on the Sega Genesis version, but I believe that it's LJN for the Super Nintendo version.
A claim were the publishers, not the developers.
Well, and then LJN would be the publishers, I do believe, on the Super Nintendo. He's going to verify that real quick. Meanwhile, I'll continue to kind of talk here a little bit.
Here we go. Got it.
So yeah, this is
it is a side-scrolling beat 'em up game for the Sega, for the Super Nintendo, and the Mega Drive and Genesis. We are looking at the North American release of the Sega Genesis, developed by Software Creations and published by Acclaim Entertainment and its subsidiary LJN in 1994. The game is based off of the comic book story arc of the same name. We will also be covering that one on the comics channel, so stay tuned for that.
Right.
It'll be a 2-part crossover here. So It'll be basically part 1 will be Maximum Carnage.
Also, for those of you who've been following along on all the other channels, this is, of course, March of the Irish, and Mr. Carnage is Mr. Cletus Cassidy, which makes him an Irish-American, which falls in line with the month.
All right, so with that being said, let's get into the story of Maximum Carnage. And that is that it basically follows the comic book. So if you
actually pretty accurately,
yeah, if you've read the comic book, you've pretty much played the game. So basically, Spider-Man's having an existential crisis of the fact that he keeps fighting these villains, and yet they keep coming back and stronger. And it's like he's destined to keep fighting them over and over,
which
over
is
again.
Something that he says in the comics, which we've already covered on Spider-Man Unlimited #1. Go back and check that one out on the comics channel.
So with this, you're basically thrust into your very first stage, in which you're just beating on random baddies. And then when you get to the end of the stage, you get to the hair-flipping girls. Unfortunately, we can't actually say what we call them in the actual, when we were playing this ourselves, but...
Yeah. Also, full disclosure, guys, this video game is tough. Okay, you will lose life, and patience is going to be key.
So,
and also full disclosure, it really helps if you have one of these.
Don't discredit us. We were on a time crunch to beat this game before March was over. So yeah. With the Game Genie, it takes you about an hour and 20 minutes to beat it, the path that I went on. Because, full disclosure, you can also play as Venom in this game.
Yeah, and with the advent, with having the Game Genie, you can skip some of the Spider-Man levels, too. Which
I actually didn't use any level skip codes. I only used the invincibility code to beat the game. You're welcome.
Well, still.
I actually use only the invincibility.
But I can tell you guys that the hair flipping girls can give you some problems.
And then there's these fat losers as well in the second stage.
We're going to have some gameplay footage for you guys as well.
Here in just a bit after we talk about some more of the story. So yeah, basically... after you go into a fight between not Carnage, but Doppelganger and Shriek, who are 2 of the 7 or 6-ish people that are part of Carnage's crew. Because you have Carnage, Shriek, Doppelganger, Carrion, and Hobgoblin. Or no, not Hobgoblin. Demogoblin. Demogoblin. By the way, Carrion, I freaking hate Carrion. He was the one thing that gave me so much trouble in this game. And I tried to be as fair as possible by having a variety of both Spider-Man and Venom gameplay when it came to my personal playthrough of the game. So
the big fat bald dudes will give you a little bit of trouble too.
Carnage will periodically appear throughout the game as just a random encounter boss fight, and you're kind of just thrust into it, and you have to face him a total of 5 times. 5.
Gotta love them retro video games, huh, guys?
Yeah. Overall, the game, the story is, like I said, if you've read the comic, then you kind of already know the story. Carnage is defeated at the end by the Avengers, and then Peter is like, well, I hope that we can bury some of our monsters in the past.
Yeah.
Because the death of the death of Harry had just happened prior to this.
So also, guys, if you've ever played any of these old school video games before, then you kind of know that when it comes to especially beat 'em up brawlers, you tend to have special moves, right? Well, there's a problem with using your special move because this is one of these video games that actually takes life away from you if you use your special move.
Yeah.
And that is just insane. It really is, because you never really get that in today's market, would you? Because today's modern gamers would revolt if there was such a thing that would happen. I think. So
we're going to end this segment here and then transition into the gameplay. Mind you, I have an hour and 20 minutes worth of gameplay footage. We're not going to show you all hour and 20. We're just going to go over some of the highlights, maybe the boss battles.
Yeah, maybe describe some more of the gameplay.
Describe some more of the gameplay as well. So we'll see. We'll see you guys on the next end. Yeah, we'll see you in the. We'll transition you into the voiceover nerds, aka the bad versions of it. All right, and we're back here in the voiceover segment, not the live action segment of the nerds. But they actually get to show their faces. We don't. What's up with that?
I know. It's kind of crazy. It's almost like they control everything or something.
Anyways, here you could have heard the awesome song that was the main theme for Spider-Man Venom Maximum Carnage. That was done by the indie rock band Green Jelly, who provided all the songs for both versions of the game, which must have been a daunting task to do.
Most definitely. If you guys have ever checked out a channel called 8-Bit Universe or 16-Bit Universe, you can find some awesome cover tracks in the 16-bit format, and the Mob Rules cover on both video games is phenomenal.
Mob Rules isn't on this one; it's on the Super Nintendo version.
Right.
Here we have the opening cutscene. Yes, cutscene. They were doing this in 1994, by the way. And it's crazy. Carnage is being like the monster that he is, and all that. It's actually really cool.
Now it is basically just a picture cutscene here, but you're getting the thought bubbles though.
From the actual comic. These are ripped straight out of the comic. Like these are in the comic pages.
Yeah, and honestly, the artwork style here is not too dissimilar from the comic book itself.
Yeah.
Which is quite amazing because, guys, full disclosure also, we're well aware that the Sega Genesis simply cannot produce as many colors as the Super Nintendo.
No, it's pretty crazy that they ripped all this off from the comic, you know. We're not saying that they ripped everything off from the comic, but yeah.
They didn't really rip it off per se, but were inspired, and this of course was I believe it's actually the first video game to follow an actual comic book storyline, because until then it was all original material.
Yeah. So yeah, you have Carnage and Shriek and all that, and they're off. And as you can see, this cutscene way back in 1994 were still way too long than they should have been.
Well, I don't know about that. You gotta set up. This is your opening intro.
I know, but
because,
still.
Also remember, guys, that with the retro video games, yeah, you're gonna have the cutscenes, and they can be somewhat long. But once you get into that gameplay, you're not interrupted with a cutscene every 5 minutes or nothing.
Yeah, I'm talking more about modern video games, and I'm ripping on them because as this channel has grown, you know, I represent the more modern side of gaming, while he represents the more retro side here. And this is actually all me, by the way. He was out taking mom to church on the time I was doing this, so yeah. And here's the actual gameplay itself, guys. Like I said, it's your standard buttons. You know, you got A for your attack button, you got B as your jump, and C is your web, where you can actually shoot webs from. It's one of the first games that actually incorporates webs. So
now,
cool.
You're going to have a difficult time, though, if you're only using the 3-button controller. You better be using the 6-button if you're playing on the Sega. Because isn't it, it's Y, right? To do the web swing?
Yeah, Y is web swing, which is the very first, as far as I know, this was one of the first games to actually do web swinging right, because we don't count the 76 one. It's bad.
Yeah.
See, there's the web swinging there, guys. But yeah, Y is your web swing, and then when you get the hero icons, which come later in the game, that's actually the Y button, is that one. And yeah, as you can see here, I'm just ruthlessly beating on enemies.
One of the cool aspects about this game, too, is that it did allow you to throw projectiles as well at your enemies.
Yeah, as you'll see later in the review, because I'll leave some of this part out where we're not actually talking over it. Probably like an extra 5 minutes after we're done talking, where it just allows you to throw stuff at enemies. It's awesome. So you see that trash can there? You can throw that. I didn't show it there.
But that's going to be about it for this here, and we'll see you guys again on the live action side.
Yeah, so until then, we'll see you guys again when they bring us out of the voiceover dungeon. See you then.
And we're back here on the live action side. As you guys might have heard, you got some descriptions of the gameplay and the soundtrack and things to that nature in the gameplay footage. So I guess now we got to talk about ratings.
Yeah.
I give it 7.5 out of 10. What say you?
I also give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's a very solid beat 'em up, you know, and a lot of people my age probably haven't experienced a beat 'em up. I remember during I think it was finals at my school, I was playing on my Switch because I had just gotten done with finals and I was, you know, enjoying and having a fun time. I was there with Nathan and I was playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge on my Switch.
Right.
And this was his first forte into action beat 'em ups.
Wow.
Yeah, it was his very first time ever playing an action beat 'em up.
16 years old, never played a beat 'em up before.
Yeah, and
pity that boy.
And I introduced it to him. He's like, you know what, this is a fun game. I'm gonna go out and try to buy it. I'm like,
right. So, guys, it's not the greatest video game in the world, but it's
really the difficulty that brings it down for me. Like, this game is way too difficult.
Yeah, it could. What really brings it down, in my opinion, is the fact that if you try to play it without the Game Genie, it is incredibly difficult. That's not to say that you can't beat it, because a lot of people have without it, but also the fact that when you use your special move, it takes life away from you. I mean, well, what is that? Why would you do that? Now, there are definitely some glitches and whatnot in the game, because like all games have glitches. But there can be, especially when you're playing the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, be forewarned, because there could be a freeze. You know, it could just suddenly freeze. It could. That's one of those things that happen. And then, of course, you're going to be frustrated and have to start all over again. But guys, for its place and for its legacy is also what kind of rates somewhat high, because 7.5 out of 10 is kind of high. I understand that in a way too, especially for an old retro game like that. But you got to understand the significance of it all. The fact that it was the first comic book storyline driven video game. The fact that you play as Spider-Man and Venom, that bumps it up a lot.
Yeah.
What would have made it phenomenal, though, and probably bumped it up to maybe an 8.5 or a 9.
Where you'd be able to play both Spider-Man and Venom in co-op.
Yes.
Which is something that they did in Separation Anxiety, but the less said about that, the better.
Yeah, we probably aren't going to cover that one, but if you want a good review of it, check out Console Wars. They did an excellent review of it. So
and there's
a little shout out to another YouTube channel.
They even did a little throwback, or they even did a little funny thing where they thought that this was the worst of, because...
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely go check them out. They're pretty cool, guys. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Maximum Carnage. I think we pretty much said all that we need to on it. So what can we expect next time?
Probably maybe starting Uncharted, the Uncharted trilogy.
Yeah, we did pick up Uncharted. The boy finally got me to buy it. I'm gonna play it, guys.
Yeah, probably the Uncharted trilogy on PS3.
Yeah.
And then when I get my PS5, it'll definitely probably be Uncharted 4 after that.
Right. And
or when we finally get to Uncharted 4, I should say, when I finally get it. So
probably gonna do a game called Spartan next on the PS2. I can bang that out for you guys, and then we can have the review up for it.
We did mention another game called Folklore. We're probably not going to get to that anytime soon, guys, because video gaming is a hobby of ours. It really is, but the game's expensive, and also the fact we don't really have money right now, and the fact that the game's an RPG, which means it's going to be very, very long.
Yeah, that
which also means it probably won't come out. It probably won't come out in time for the end of like March of the Irish and all that.
Because full disclosure, that I'm currently playing an RPG on my own right now. It's a different one. But I'm 20 hours into it, and I'm nowhere near the end of the storyline and everything.
Yeah.
So anyways, guys, you can expect these things coming in the next couple of days and weeks, and we'll have more stuff. We'll try to get some gaming news and maybe our reaction to some gaming trailers coming out.
I know the perfect one.
I know he wants to do one, and we're going to do one soon, just not today. So, with that being said, guys, we'll see you guys next time. And until then, there's only one thing left to say. And that, of course, is...
Peace and love from Denny and Son. Bye.